Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm helping you level up your communication skills. And on this episode, I'm going to be talking about the art of not having an opinion regarding certain issues. In 2015 and 2016, it almost felt as though I was living in a cartoon. Every single day, there was new news being propagated into the masses. Very negative news, by the way. And the masses were digesting this news. They were debating about this news, arguing about it, and occasionally fighting over it. And here I was, witnessing the entire thing going on, thinking, what dummies? Don't they understand what's going on? Don't they have a little bit of media literacy to understand the business models for a lot of these media companies? How salacious negative news leads to more profits? And here are these people being stuck in a rat race for the mind. Such sad individuals. And as I was judging them on a very microscopic lens, eventually, one of these days, I had enough self-awareness to zoom out. Rather than looking at the micro, I was looking at the macro. At the micro basis, I thought I was separate from what was going on around me. But on the macro basis, I was extremely entrenched in this predicament. You may have been like that too in 2015, 2016, where you eventually were like, you know what? I'm not going to be listening to all this negative news. I'm not going to be filling my mind with all this garbage. Yet, when you hung out with your friends, they were taking every piece of that news very seriously. And if you wanted to talk to them, they asked you about what was going on out there. So even though on a microscopic lens, you thought you were separate, on a macroscopic lens, no, you were very entrenched. So what now? Did we lose? I thought the mind was supposed to be the number one asset for all humans. But it seems as though no matter how far we try to run away, the more and more we get entrenched. Not quite. In situations like this, further conviction is needed. And how can we gain further conviction? Well, on a very macroscopic level, at times it's better to disengage one subject to enter a very different subject, to learn without biases, to learn with more conviction. So in this situation, since we're talking a lot about media, a lot about psychology and sociology, a lot of soft skills related stuff, how about we temporarily disengage from this world and enter a very hard skills field like electrical engineering? In 2015 and 2016, I had to leverage my electrical engineering background to understand what was going on. And as I was trying to understand what was going on, I saw a stunning parallel between electricity and opinions. Really? Yeah, really. Because what is electricity? Electricity is moving electrons, right? Yeah. And electricity, when we put it through an oven, it generates heat. When we put electricity through a fridge, it generates a coldness. You get cold. It keeps your food nice and cold. And in a very similar level, opinions normally have movement. When you put in opinions on a very empowering individual, when they do share opinions, others end up learning. Others end up being exposed to further truth. Now, on the flip side, you put opinions in a knucklehead, a person who can't control their emotions, lacks perspective of a bigger picture, lacks any semblance of a purpose. You just get a highly opinionated individual who has no value to the grand scheme of things. So just like electricity can serve different functions, so can opinions. Opinions are not necessarily bad. It just depends on the individual who is espousing their viewpoints. So that was one similarity that I noticed. Another similarity I noticed is that insulators Insulators in the world of electrical engineering is extremely powerful. Conductors allow for the movement of electrons, and insulators allow you to be shielded from that electricity. Just imagine if you're about to plug in your iron and you see that there's no plastic on the wire. You're just straight up touching the electricity. You may be dead. So the insulator serves a very, very strong functionality to the moving electrons. And likewise with humans, our insulator is thick skin. Because when the skin is extremely thin, it's sort of like this situation where the iron is lacking the plastic. It leads to a lot of volatility. In this situation, without thick skin, it's extremely easy to be swayed by mainstream media narratives and society as a whole. So that was another parallel that I was noticing. But the most important parallel of it all was the battery. The battery is the source. Without the source, you don't get a flow of electrons. No matter how much you try, you need that battery power to bring that circuit to life. That's what allows the electrons to move towards a direction. And likewise with a human, when they lack a battery, the source, aka a purpose which is bigger than them, that's when they're being ruled by their ego. And the ego is something that's extremely fragmented. The ego, when we learn how to control it, it's one of the best vehicles for creativity. But when we're leading with the ego, when it's controlling us, it's extremely easy to be fragmented as individuals. And it's funny because that's what a lot of these mainstream corporations look out for. They look out for fragmented individuals who can easily soak up narratives because their insulator is very weak as well. So the battery is extremely important. What is this human's core drive? What are most of their thoughts being centered around on? And if they don't have one, society as a whole will generate that. So by further understanding electricity, circuitry, insulators, I was able to come back in this domain and understand what should happen. I shouldn't be having opinions on everything because that's not smart. What's smarter in my world is to identify my battery. What is my battery pack? So my thoughts, my opinions can flow towards a certain direction, which allows me to empower myself, which allows me to empower my circuitry, which builds the insulator. So I'm not a dependent thinker. I'm starting to become an independent thinker. From here, as I serve as a better functioning circuitry on my own, nowadays I can function better within society as a whole. ArmaniTalks, this media company, overall, most of my videos are opinions regarding different situations. But in this scenario, it's much different than 2015 and 2016 because nowadays these opinions are capable of adding value to other people's lives rather than providing the illusion that it's providing value. If you just have an opinion, that means you're making a difference. No, faulty narrative. So what is the summary of all of this? The summary of all of this is that if you want to avoid having opinions regarding everything out there, it's very smart to work on yourself. And one of the best ways we can work on ourselves is to learn from different fields so we can temporarily disengage a lot of biases. One of the best ways to learn about soft skills is surprisingly through hard skills. By understanding the functionality of electricity and drawing parallels between the circuitry with the human, it's easier to add clarified concepts into very ambiguous fields. And from there, once we have identified our source, once our opinions are flowing towards a certain direction, we're much less easier to stand up for ourselves, and it's much more difficult to brainwash us for the latest narratives. So all in all, just ask, is there a battery that I'm operating with? Because if there's not one predominant source, then you have many different sources. The ego is highly fragmented, and whether you know it or not, your ego is being programmed every single day. Did I say that your insulator is pretty weak if you're leading with the ego? That may be why you consistently see yourself getting brainwashed by the latest gossip, negative news, and debates which are not going to add any high ROI to your life. Find the source, leverage the opinions with the source, and then when you contribute your opinions to the world, people listen more because you're providing a lot of bold truths that help on a micro level as well as a macro level. Thank you for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next episode.